Kimberly of Happy Gals Vintage. Thank you for tuning in today to watch our video all about collectible glass. And specifically, we're going to be talking about crystal glass and how you can tell if you have something that is real crystal or just a piece of glass. Now, some of you, when you hear the word crystal, you might right away think of something like this citrine crystal that's part of my own personal collection. And it's very similar to crystals that I use when I make my crystal wands in my crystal wand maker's shop. Although the ones I use in the wands are a little smaller than this one. Now this crystal, if you were to look at the molecules of the crystal, it would be a crystalline structure. However, crystal glass, there is no crystalline structure in the molecules of crystal glass. It's actually called crystal because of an old Venetian word called cristallo. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that word correctly or not. However, it was referencing old glassmakers, Venetian glassmakers of the time, way back when, who would work with glass and try to make it look similar to natural crystal. And the name crystal from that word has just stuck over time. Now the interesting thing about all glass is it's made from silica or sand. And it's kind of fun to think about that glass is made of sand. Crystal glass is also made of sand with the added ingredient of lead oxide, or also potash too, sometimes, or soda, and other chemicals sprinkled in as well, depending on the glass maker. Now the addition of these other items into the glass making, especially the lead oxide, really changes the properties of the glass. And generally, the higher percentage of lead oxide that's included in the glass, the higher the quality of the piece of crystal. Now because of the addition of lead into the glass changes the properties of the glass, then there are very specific ways that you can check to see if you have a piece of leaded crystal or if you have a piece of regular glass. Now there are some very easy ways to tell if you have a piece of crystal, especially if you just go to a shop with brand new glass and brand new crystal. They are going to be very specific and be sure to tell you, they'll have it in a separate section even, that this is leaded crystal and this is glass. And almost all brand new pieces of leaded crystal are going to have a sticker right on the piece that tells you that it is real leaded crystal. It'll even tell you the percentage of lead that is in the crystal. But let's say you're not buying your crystalline glass from a store that has all brand new pieces. Let's say you're actually buying from a thrift shop or a flea market or some kind of secondhand store, even an antique store. In those cases, very often they're going to have possibly a shelf just full of glass items, and there may be some fine crystal just in amongst the other items, and often the store owners themselves don't even know which is just glass and which is fine crystal. So if you are someone who wants to collect fine crystal items, then you need to know how to tell when you look at a shelf full, how can you tell what's the real crystal and what's just glass? Now in front of me on the table right now, I have a whole bunch of glass and crystal glass items, and they're all interspersed. And everything on this table almost is for sale in Happy Gals Vintage right now, with the exception of one of my own private pieces that I have in my own collection, and also a couple of bowls here that I haven't listed yet, but I will very shortly, and those will be available in Happy Gals Vintage as well. But how do you know when you're looking at a collection like this? Say you're in an antique store and you come upon a table like this and you want to get a nice piece of real leaded crystal. How do you know what's the real crystal here? Now in those types of situations, if the owner of the store is really knowledgeable about glass and crystal, you're going to notice that the price of the crystal items is going to be higher than just the regular glass items. And this would also be the case if you are in a store buying brand new glass or brand new crystal items. The crystal is almost always going to be quite a bit more expensive than just the regular glass items. If you're at a flea market or a thrift shop, the chances are more likely that the crystal items won't be substantially priced higher than regular glass. It will all be together, and so you can't necessarily tell by price alone in those situations whether something is real crystal or just glass. Now, one way to tell if you have a piece of crystal is to hold it up to the light. When you hold a piece of leaded crystal up to the light and you turn it a little bit, you're going to see tiny little rainbows within the crystal, prisms of color that will flash in the crystal. And that won't happen in just a regular glass piece, even a cut glass bowl. You're not going to get that same effect that you would in a crystal piece. And even in something that isn't sort of prism cut like this, even in something that is just like this pretty little crystal glass, you will still have the same effect happening. As you turn it, you're going to see the colors that are going to come shining through the glass, the crystal glass. Along those same lines of holding it up to the light is the fact that crystal glass will sparkle, especially the higher the lead content within the crystal. So if it's like a 35% or higher portion of lead within the crystal, it's really going to sparkle in the light. Whereas a regular piece of glass is not going to have that same sort of sparkling look to it that a crystal glass would. This particular one that I was just holding up a minute ago is just incredibly sparkly because they've cut it almost like diamond cuts to just really show off the crystal. So it's a lot of fun. The other difference with crystal is if the crystal isn't dusty, which often in an antique store or, a flea market or some kind of situation like that, it very well could be. So you might want to bring a little cotton cloth with you. But once you get the dust off, a piece of crystal is going to be much clearer. The glass, now this one has got frosted leaves on it, so it's kind of hard to tell. But if you were to look through the section of the bowl that is clear, that is just clear, it's going to be very, very clear. Much more clear than just a regular glass item would be. A regular glass item, when you hold it up to the light and you look through it, it's not going to have that same crystal clear sharpness that you'll be able to see almost like it's not there in clean crystal. In a regular glass, it's just not the same. It's just a little bit foggier, a little out of focus. There's not that same clean sharpness when you look through a nice clean piece of leaded crystal as opposed to a nice clean piece of regular glass. Generally, leaded crystal is heavier than regular glass too. So if you had a bowl, say that was about this same size that was regular glass and about the same thickness, if you held the leaded crystal in the regular bowl, the leaded crystal is going to be quite a bit heavier, markedly heavier, you'll be able to tell. So that's another way to tell if you have a real crystal item. Also, leaded crystal pieces, often the cuts or the design that are in the glass are just very finely done, right? They're going to be very clean, very precise, just beautiful. Generally, just a little bit more nicely done than glass pieces, where often the glass is pressed or put in a mold. It's just a different technique, and the crystal glass is just generally a more finely produced product. Now, one fun way to tell if you have a piece of crystal that you can use, you just have to be careful when you do it, is the ringing test. And I'm gonna put a piece of crystal here right in front of me so you can tell what I'm talking about. Now, a piece of crystal, when struck lightly, don't go banging on your crystal and then get mad at me because you chipped it. Don't do that. But if you lightly ping a piece of crystal, it's going to ring like a bell and echo a little bit. And the higher the percentage of lead within the crystal item, the more it's going to ring. So let me start with a piece of glass that is just glass here. And, oops. Now if I hit this, can you even hear it? You know, there's a little bit of a sound there, right? You can tell that I pinged it with my fingernail. However, if you take a leaded crystal bowl, hear the difference? And this is a really nice crystal bowl with a high percentage of lead in it, so it really rings. You hear that? Still ringing, right? It's really ringing. And there's a big difference there between a leaded crystal bowl and just regular glass. They do not sound the same, right? And even in a small piece, you're going to be able to hear a ring. These bowls, I mean, they're almost shaped like a bell, so they really ring, and it's just a beautiful sound for your ears. And I don't know how well you could tell in the video, but it lasts a long time. And so that's a fun way to test if something is real crystal. But of course, if you're in someone's antique store or something, you know, you have to be very careful, obviously, and subtle about what you're doing. Don't just go around pinging things all over the store, because you're gonna get kicked out. Now, crystal is fun to collect. The only thing you have to think about is that you have to be a little more careful with crystal as opposed to regular glass. It has sort of a porous nature to it in the molecular structure of it, so you don't want to be putting it like in a dishwasher. You only want to hand wash it. That's why often people that have crystal end up just sticking it away in a cabinet and they never get it out because they're afraid that they're going to ruin it. But really, you can use crystal. You just have to be careful. Don't stick it in a dishwasher. Hand wash it, you know, on its own. And definitely, I think, use your crystal and also put it out in the light, you know, where people can enjoy how beautiful it is. You know, you don't want to just put away somewhere and not enjoy it. It's definitely made to be enjoyed and used. And there's one last way that I have heard that people can also tell if something is real crystal, and I've never used this method, but it is if you have a little UV pocket light, and I guess if you shine a UV pocket light or any UV light on a piece of crystal, it's going to have sort of a bluish purple glow to it that regular glass won't have. And I guess that is the UV light picking up on the lead within the crystal. Regular clear glass, I am told, will have sort of a greenish tint instead of that purple tint. Now, crystal is wonderful, and it's a lot of fun to collect, and it's really a nice gift for like a wedding or an anniversary or a housewarming party, you know, a hostess gift, something like that. And we have some beautiful crystal pieces in our Happy Gals Vintage shop. We're always getting more. I recently had a crystal honey pot that was just beautiful that sold right away, of course. But we also have lots of other types of glass in our Happy Gals Vintage shop as well that are beautiful in their own right, and they are silica glass, and many of them are colored glass, which is really fun too. And we sell lots of different pieces of colored glass, and I have some in front of me right now that are in the Happy Gals Vintage shop. This one here is not in the Happy Gals Vintage shop. This is a piece that my mother-in-law, my ex-mother-in-law, who is just a very dear friend of mine, gave me for my birthday a few years back. And it's this lovely melted glass with all these beautiful colors in it, and I just love this piece. Thank you, Dee Dee. And I love Dee Dee. And anyway, this piece is beautiful, and I just have it on the table because I love it, and it adds some color to my table here. But we have other pieces that are in the Happy Gals Vintage shop. This pressed glass bowl where they actually pour the glass into a mold, and this has a texture to it on the back, and this lovely grapevine design. It's beautiful. And we always have lots of different colored vases in the shop. different shades of blues and pinks. This one is a really nice sort of amber yellow. And those tend to sell pretty quickly, especially our pink vases. People really like them. This one is a big, pretty pink blown glass vase that we've recently added to the Happy Gals Vintage shop. And I just love the fancy top. This is a nice piece. Or this really fancy little glass basket in pink. Has this sort of raised polka dot kind of finish on it, the fluted edge. Really a nice collectible piece that I've just recently added to the shop. Or you can have like specific, sort of lusterware glass, like this sugar creamer set, sugar bowl and creamer set, I should say, in this really nice sort of peachy glass that has a raised design, embossed design on it. So pretty. These vintage colored glass pieces are just so much fun. Or something fun like this pink depression glass cream and sugar bowl set. This is glass, not crystal glass, but look at how sparkly it is. And the color is just so much fun from the Depression era. And Depression glass is pretty collectible right now. Or glass animals like this frog that I've just added to the shop recently. He's actually solid glass. They pour the hot melted glass into a mold to make this beautiful froggy candle holder. And there's other animals too, but this is the one I have in my shop right now. And in general, I think colored glass items are just so much fun. They add so much light and sort of a happy vibe to a room. If you put them up in a window where they can really catch the light, or on a shelf where you can see them from a lot of different angles. Something like this pretty little purple blown glass vase. It's just so nice. Very collectible. It also makes a nice little gift of someone that for their birthday or something if they love purple. Now if you're watching this video and you're interested in some of these items that I've been showing you, don't forget that in the description below this video I have links that go right to all 3 of my Etsy shops. These items are in my Happy Gals Vintage shop, and I also have 2 other shops. One's called Elements 5 and the other one is called Crystal Wand Maker, and there's links to those shops as well. And I think you're really going to enjoy checking out all the things in all of our shops. We have a lot of really beautiful items. Lots of handmade items, vintage items, antique items, great stuff. And I want to thank you for watching this video. I hope you had fun watching it. Maybe you learned a little bit more about glass and specifically about crystal glass. If you did enjoy this video, I hope you will click the like button right below. It really helps out our channel and it helps out our shops. And also, if you enjoyed this video, please consider subscribing to the channel. We have a lot of fun videos all the time about vintage and collectible items and also different ways to be happy. And I hope you all have a wonderful day, and I will catch you again next time.